Good day, everyone, and welcome to our People Analytics Group presentation for Australian Outdoors, titled Data Insight to Action. My name is Mohammed Mashal, and today, along with my group members Siddhant and David, we will present how People Analytics can be used to understand organizational problems and support better leadership decisions. Australian Outdoors is currently facing three connection issues: declining employee engagement, increasing customer complaints, and falling revenue. Our purpose today is to explain what the data is telling us and what action leadership should take to reverse this situation. Now, moving towards our presentation roadmap. Our presentation is divided into four sections. The first and foremost one, I will present the executive summary, including the purpose, scope, methodology, key findings, and recommendations. And then Siddhant will explain the data analysis, including employee survey, result correlation, customer complaints, and sales trends. And third, David will discuss the stakeholder impact predictions, showing the risk if no action is taken and the benefit is Australian outdoor respond properly. And finally, I will return to present the three recommended actions and conclude the presentation. Now, now moving towards executive summary. Our analysis is based on 2023 Employee Voice Survey, which includes data from 300 employees across 4 departments and 20 team leaders. We also used customer satisfaction results, customer complaints data, sales revenue from 2020 to 2023, and market intelligence about analytics culture. For the methodology, we used Excel descriptive analysis, correlation analysis, and trend analysis. We also applied the job demands, resources, theory, and emotional labor literature to explain how stress, well-being, and engagement affect employee and customer outcomes. The main finding is that Australian Outdoor is not only facing an employee issue. The data shows that employee well-being problems are directly affecting customer satisfaction and revenue performance. Now, moving towards our key findings preview. The key finding shows a serious organizational problems. First and foremost, 40.3% of employees reported low personal well-being. Secondly, 31.7% of employees reported high perceived stress. The strongest predictor of turnover intention is perceived stress, with a correlation of plus 0.607. This means that when employee stress increases, the intention to leave also increases strongly. Customer satisfaction has also declined from 9.6 to 6.6 company wide. In apparel and footwear dropped even more sharply, reaching only 4.3 out of 10. Financially, the worst performing team experienced a sales decline of 54.9%. So the evidence chain is clear. Low well-being increases stress, increases turnover intention, turnover weaken service quality, and poor service quality damage customer satisfaction and revenue. Now moving towards what must change and why. To respond to these findings, we recommend three evidence-based actions. First, Australian Outdoor need a structured well-being and workload management program to reduce stress and improve employee well-being. Secondly, the company needs mandatory manager capability development because the data shows major difference between strong and weak team leaders. Third, Australian Outdoors needs a people analytics governance framework so the organization can track well-being, engagement, turnover risk, and customer outcome continuously. Together, these three actions can reduce turnover risk, rebuild customer satisfaction, and support revenue recovery. I will now hand over to Siddhant, who will present the detailed data analysis.
Thank you, Marshall. I will now move into section 2, where we analyze the actual data behind the problem at Australian Outdoors. This section focuses on the employee survey results, departmental risk profiles, correlation analysis, customer satisfaction trends, customer complaints, and sales decline. The data set includes 300 surveyed employees across 20 team leaders and four major departments, which are outdoor gear, apparel and footwear, accessories and essentials, and seasonal and clearance. We analyzed 12 survey variables, including employee engagement, personal well-being, perceived stress, work-life balance, job satisfaction, satisfaction with manager, satisfaction with team, productivity, learning and development opportunities, and intention to leave. These employee measures were then connected with customer satisfaction, complaint data, and 4 years of sale performance. To interpret this data, we applied the job demand resource theory. According to this theory, when employees face high demand but do not receive enough support, flexibility, recognition, or resources, burnout begin to increase. This then reduces engagement and affects the performance. We also used emotional labor literature, which explains that frontline employees who are emotionally exhausted are less able to deliver positive customer experience. This is especially important for Australian outdoors because the company depends heavily on customer-facing retail teams. Based on this, we tested four hypotheses. Low well-being increases turnover intention, turnover increases complaints, job satisfaction reduces turnover intention, and lower team stability creates service deficits. Moving on, looking at the 2023 employee voice survey, the overall results are concerning. The most important figure that is that 40.3% of employees reported low personal well-being. This means 121 employees scored their well-being at 4 out of 10 or lower. At the same time, 31.7% of employees reported high perceived stress, meaning 95 employees scored stressed at 7 out of 10 or above. This is not a small issue affecting only a few people. A large section of the workforce is already under strain. From a people analytics perspective, this is an early warning signal when well-being is low and stress is high. Employees are more likely to disengage, reduce effort, make service mistakes, or eventually leave the organization. This directly supports the job demand resource model because the data suggests that the job demands are becoming stronger than the resources available to employees. The highest risk department is accessories and essentials. This department recorded the highest average stress score at 6.61 out of 10 and the highest intention to leave score at 5.24. This shows that employees in this department are not only stressed but are also more likely to think about leaving. Apparel and footwear is also critical condition. It has a stress score of 6.51, low engagement at 4.35, and the lowest customer satisfaction rating in the organization at 4.3 out of 10. This is important because the department with the highest internal people risk are also the departments showing weak customer outcomes. Outdoor gear, on the other hand, performs better. It has higher engagement, lower intention to leave, and stronger customer outcomes. So the problem is not equally distributed across the organizations. It is concentrated in specific departments, especially apparel and footwear and accessories and essentials. To understand what is driving employees to consider leaving, we conducted a Pearson correlation analysis against the intention to leave. The strongest predictor is perceived stress with a correlation of positive 0.607. This is a strong positive relationship. It means that the stress increases, intention to leave also increases. This strongly supports hypothesis 1. Job satisfaction has a correlation of negative 0.546 with intention to leave. Employee engagement also has a negative correlation of 0.424, and work-life balance has a negative correlation of 0.367, and the personal well-being has a negative correlation of 0.321. To put this into perspective, Rubinstein and colleagues found an average correlation of negative 0.45 between job satisfaction and turnover intention across 234 studies. Our internal result is even stronger at negative 0.546. This means Australian Outdoors is experiencing a stronger than normal relationship between dissatisfaction and turnover intention. In simple terms, If the company does not improve satisfaction and reduces stress, more employees are likely to leave. The employee problem is now visible in customer outcomes. Company-wide customer satisfaction fell from 9.1 in 2018 to 6.6 in 2022. That is a decline of 2.5 points. The sharpest fall happened in apparel and footwear department, where CSAT dropped from 9 to 4.3, that is 4.7 point collapse and the worst decline of any department. This supports hypothesis 2 and 4, where employees are stressed, disengaged, or leaving. Customer service quality declines. Hancock and colleague explains that high collective turnover creates institutional knowledge loss. New staff can take 6 to 12 months to rebuild the tacit service skills that experienced staff already had. So the CSAT decline is not just a customer problem, it is connected to the internal people issues shown in the survey. The customer complaint data gives us a more specific view of where the problem is happening. Sophia White in seasonal and clearance generated the highest number of complaints with 113 complaints and a CSAT of score of 3.8. In apparel and footwear section generated 105 complaints also with a CSAT score of 3.8, which is one of the lowest scores in the organization. Adrian Singh recorded 98 complaints and Robert Lewis recorded 80 complaints. Importantly, three of the top five highest complaint team leaders are in apparel and footwear. Gabriel and colleagues show that on high exhaustion days, frontline service ratings fall and customer dissatisfaction rises. This matches our data set because the department with high stress are also showing high complaint volume. The same pattern appears in sale performance. The worst sale decline is Angel Costa team in apparel and footwear with a 54.9% decline from 2020 to 2023. Alexander Scott team in accessories and essentials declined by 48.9% and Ian Win teams declined by 47.7%. So the data shows the full connection between employee well-being, customer experience, and financial performance. This confirms that the only issue is not an HR issue, it is a performance issue. Finally, team with CSAT score below 5 generated 3 to 13 times more complaints than teams with a CAT score above 7. The qualitative survey feedback also points to unmanageable workload, poor management support, lack of career development, and work-life balance. So the evidence is chain is clear. Well-being decreases, stress increases, engagement falls, turnover intention rises, service quality declines, customer complaints increase, and revenue falls. I will now hand over to David, who will explain the predicted stakeholder impacts if Australian Outdoor does not act on this evidence.
Thank you, Siddhant. In this section, we will look at two options: what happens if leadership does not nothing, versus what we gain if we take action today. Next slide. Let's start with our workers. Right now, over 17% of our staff, which is almost 52 people, want to leave the company. Also, nearly a third of our workforce is highly stressed, and 40% feel a low sense of personal well being. If we do nothing, the problem will just spread throughout the company. When good employees leave, their work falls on the remaining staff. This creates a bad cycle of stress, burnout, and more people quitting. Data shows that when people feel stressed and unhappy at work, they quietly check out before they officially resign. We also, next slide. We also have a legal duty under the Work Health and Safety Act to protect our staff from mental stress. As of now, our data shows we are not meeting this duty, especially in the apparel and accessories departments. But if we act now and build better well-being programs, we can cut sick leave by at least 40% and boost productivity by 17%, which will save the company a lot of money. Next slide. So now let's look at our team leaders. The data clearly shows that management quality is the main difference between our good teams and bad teams. It is not the products causing our drops in revenue, it is how teams are being led. So let's compare our lowest performing teams in apparel to our top performing teams in outdoor gear. In the apparel department, teams have the lowest engagement, the highest stress, and huge revenue losses of over 53%. That's a lot. Workers say the leaders micromanage them and only react when things go wrong. On the other hand, in outdoor gear, leaders use data to support their teams. The staff have high engagement scores, very few customers complain, and steady sales. Only because of one leader, Zoe Khan, limited her team's revenue loss to just 16%. Managers create the atmosphere for their teams. If we do nothing, these leadership gaps will just get worse and more team leaders will quit in the future. If we take action and train our managers, they can fix these performance gaps within 12 to 18 months. Next slide. Now let's talk about our customers. The data shows our relationship with customers is just getting worse. Our company-wide customer satisfaction score has dropped by 2.5 points. Our seasonal and clearance department face heavy competition, meaning customers will easily leave us for another brand. Uh, our data explains exactly why customers are unhappy. The employees are burnt out and highly stressed, which results in not giving them friendly or helpful services. Happy employees give genuine services, which makes customers stay loyal and return to buy from us again. And if we do nothing for this, our brand reputation will just keep dropping and we'll get bad reviews in the future. But if we invest in a better work life balance for our staff, our customer service scores will go up, bringing apparel up to the same standard as outdoor gear. We'll win back our customers' trust and protect our brand. Finally, let's look at the next slide. Yeah. Finally, let's look at the financial impact on our business and stakeholders. So, if we keep doing things the same way, our sales will just continue to drop and we will lose our market share to competitors. Replacing just one worker who quits costs 6 to 9 months of their salary in hiring and training. With over 52 workers ready to leave, this is a massive financial risk for the company. The big lesson from our data is that using data matters. The outdoor gear department uses a data driven culture, and they have the highest engagement and most stable sales, which is a proven way to succeed. Studies show that employee well being makes up a huge part of the company's overall performance. If we invest in our people, we protect our revenue, keep shareholders and safe from financial risk, and build a stronger business for us in the future. Now, Mashal will take over from here.
Thank you, David. Now I will present our final section, which focuses on the recommendation, action, and conclusion. Now moving towards next slide, structure well-being and workload management program. Our first recommendation is a structured well-being and workload management program. The data shows that 40.3% of employees have low well-being and 31.7% experience high stress. Stress is also the strongest predictor of turnover intention with a correlation of plus 0.607. This means stress is not just a personal issues, it is business risk because it increases the chance of employee leaving. To address this, Australian Outdoors should conduct an immediate workload audit, especially in apparel and footwear accessories. Because this department shows higher stress and lower engagement, the company should also introduce flexible work arrangement for the high stress team, promote employee assistance programs, and use quarterly pulse survey to monitor employee well-being. The target should be to reduce low well-being from 40.3% to below 20% within 12 months. Now moving towards next slide. Mandatory Manager Capability Development Program. Our second recommendation is a Mandatory Manager Capability Development Program. The data set shows a major performance gap between team leader. For example, Zoe Gan has customer satisfaction score of 8.6 while Lan Nguyen has only 3.8. This is a 4.8-point gap within the same organization, which suggests that manager behavior is strongly affecting team performance. The training should focus on three core areas. First, psychological safety, where employees feel safe to speak up. Secondly, meaningful recognition, where manager regularly acknowledge employee effort. And third, coaching for performance, where manager move away from micromanagement and support employee development. This recommendation is important because manager directly influence engagement, stress, retention, and customer service quality. If, if implemented, Australian Outdoor can reduce customer complaints, improve employee engagement, and move weaker department closer to the stronger outdoor gear benchmark. Now, moving towards next slide. Our third recommendation is People Analytics Governance Framework. The dataset shows that only Outdoor Gears currently has a strong analytical culture. The other departments have unclear or low analytic maturity. This matters because Outdoor Gear has the best engagement, lowest turnover intention, and most stable sales performance. This shows the data-driven management can support better outcomes. First, quarterly pulse survey to track well-being, stress, and engagement. Secondly, a turnover risk dashboard to monitor intention to leave, tenure, and engagement scores. Third, escalation protocol. So HR and manager must act when stress to turnover risk become high. Now moving towards our evidence chain. This slide summarizes the full evidence chain. The problem begins with declining employee well-being. When well-being is low, stress increases and engagement falls. This As a result, customer satisfaction drops, complaint increase, and revenue falls. So Australian Outdoor is not facing separate problems. It is facing one connected crisis, a people crisis that has become customer crisis and then financial crisis. The solution also follow the same chain. If well-being improves, engagement improves. If engagement improves, retention improves. If retention improves, customer satisfaction and revenue can recover. Now, moving towards finally our conclusion. To conclude, the Australian Outdoor is experiencing a serious people analytics issue. The data shows low well-being, high stress, high turnover intention, falling customer satisfaction, and major sales decline in the worst performance team. The most important point is that the data set does not only describe the problem, it also gives a clear path forward. By implementing a well-being and workload management program, manager capability development, and people analytic governance framework, Australian Outdoor can reduce turnover risk, rebuild customer satisfaction, and recover revenue performance. All our recommendations are based on empirical evidence and peer-review research, supporting critical, engaged, and evidence-based decision making. Australian Outdoors has the data, the tools, and the opportunity to act on behalf of my group. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.